got a box. So this is my next shipment of Combat Patrol, the magazine. And I believe it's our first premium box with the extra models in it, because the rest of them have been envelopes. If you've watched the other videos, you know that. But this one is a big old cardboard box, which means I can only imagine that there is something in here extra. I'm not sure if this is going to be one of the small gifts or if it's going to be the first premium model. Hold on, let me get this tape cut. Whoops, I just rotated everything. Very cool. Come on. There we go. Or if this is going to be some of the like little trinkets to keep all your magazines safe. I'm just going to turn this over, and we're going to do the money shot. Let me take the receipt out. I don't want you all seeing any sensitive information. Just go. Ugh. You guys get to see everything that came out before I do. Okay, so this is the binder for your Combat Patrol magazines, which is pretty handy, just to keep your Combat Patrols, your Combat Patrol magazines nice, which is kind of appreciated because mine have just kind of been floating around, and I would like to keep them safe. You've got some Chaos Space Marine artwork from a few codexes back, it's Ulthway, if I'm not mistaken, and then just your standard Space Marine stuff. I just got a text. And you've got some guards, some Photans, some Gene Stealers, and some World Eaters, of course. Sorry about the plastic wrap. Let me get that off. Ugh, come on. The binder does, it feels pretty nice, I'll admit. It's got a nice sort of, it feels like the cover of a codex, actually, which is pretty nice. Will you stop it? Let me turn my ringtone off. I'm not sure why I'm getting so many messages. So you've got your pretty standard stuff. You've got your build, your paint, read, collect, and play. You've got some more artwork here. Aside from that, it's a pretty standard binder. I will put my magazines in here after this video. And then we get, of course, to the stuff everybody cares about here. We have our next 4 magazines, which I believe are going to be termagants and paint, mostly. So this is just more grunts. I'm going to stop talking while I open these because they're really crinkly, and I'm just going to cut them all open now. Alrighty, and we're back. Here we have issue 7, which comes with your first 5 termagants. And I believe the Ripper Swarm will be... No, the Ripper Swarm will be in the next one, along with all the bases. They're the standard monopost termagants. Oh no, there's some Rippers there. Nothing too crazy. Just, again, standard termagants. Equipped with flesh bores, but you, of course, who really knows the difference? You can run them all. And you get a little ruler here. Handy if you don't have a tape measure for some reason, but not as fun to hit your friends with as the whippy sticks were. As you can see here, so Combat Patrol, yeah, part 1 of 2. How to build pretty standard stuff. You've got some more Space Marine pictures there. The Imperium is vast, and the Space Marines, elite as they are, cannot be everywhere at once. However, the legend of the Space Marines is found everywhere in the Imperium. Factory workers trudge to their shifts beneath vast statues of great Space Marine heroes, while on the front lines, soldiers pray that Space Marines will join them in battle. When Space Marines do appear, Imperial citizens are awestruck. They treat every Space Marine as a godlike being. Picking up spent bolter casings as holy relics and fighting even closer when the Adeptus Astartes are close. So, you have some more fluff here, talking about how the Space Marines are few in number, but mighty, but also very powerful when working in a combined force. And then you have the Hive Mind, which is, of course, talking more about Tyranids. You've got a, oh, that's a pretty nice paint job for that Space Wolf right there. I quite like that. Along with that, what is that, Behemoth Maleceptor. It's talking about synapse organisms and decapitation, which is a very effective way of defeating the Tyranids. Got that old Tyranid warrior there. I quite like Tyranid warriors though. When I finish my Tyranids, I will use a lot of them probably. Here you have moving, I suppose, which is pretty standard. It's just telling you how you can move. Measurement in inches. Unit coherency, of course. Unit must remain in coherency, and then you have engagement range. All very important stuff. I'm not going to go fully in depth on it because I think I'd rather just do sort of a bespoke 40k series, like how to play 40k. It's a very generic series to do, but I think it could be fun. Here you're just going to have your, you have sort of a move and shoot, which is a very important part of 40k. Of course, you have your little walkthrough. You have Space Marine victory versus Tyranid victory. Do I have a dice on hand? I don't think so. What could we use? This monoposed base will be our coin. We'll flip this. We'll call the top part Space Marines and the bottom part Tyranids. Alright, Space Marines win. With boots, blades, and purging flames, the Inverness squad finishes off the barbed gaunts. They now turn their attention to the bulging sacks in which swarms of termagants are being bred. Space Marines can destroy these. Perhaps they can save themselves from being completely overwhelmed by the swarm. Very true, very true. Then you've just got some advertising here. It's going to be the next point, and then you get some very good paints in the next Combat Patrol. Let's move on to Combat Patrol 8. That was Combat Patrol 7. If you want to look through that more closely, you can pause at any time, of course. Try and be gentle with this. The plastic is very crinkly, though. There we are. Alright, Combat Patrol 8. This has all the bases and all the rest of the termagants. Again, just more flesh borers. I now have an obscene amount of them. How to paint your termagants and your Ripper Swarm. Just undercoat with Wraithbone and then apply a little bit of purple to all the chitin, and you've got a decently effective looking termagant, though I would recommend painting the gun as well, the little chitin there. Let me push these here. I do like this, though, that they say, like, as you get more paints, you can paint in more details. It's a fun process, for sure. Here they're talking about the Departamento Munitorum, which is, of course, the logistics side of the Imperium. God, I wish these pages didn't stick together like that, but it is what it is. And that's the symbol of the department. The Second Tyrannic War, that's, of course, when High Fleet Kraken really messed up the Ultramarines. And the Iandan as well. But the Tyranids, yep, the Great Devourer, they have done a lot of devouring, that is to be sure. Let's name our termagant unit. Do I have a dice on hand? I don't think so. Let me grab one. Let's see, what are my termagants named? A 5? So, this is their background, actually. These termagants use tactics that seem unusual, similar to those employed by the human soldiers of the Astra Militarum. Oh, well, I just flung that dice. Let's hope we don't need it again. I don't want to go and find it. Deeds, mark off the deeds when you complete those, of course. Here you have their data sheet. And charging in combat. Which of course just tells you how to charge. Roll 2d6 and you can charge up to that distance, if it's successful, that is. Ambush Predator. This does not look like a fair fight for our Space Marine friends, if I'm being real. I do really like these tutorials, though. I might make a video series of these tutorials instead of just doing it in the unboxing video, which would just make the video obscenely long. But yep, fighting. Let me see. Where did that dice go? Alrighty. Tyranids charge and fight. And then you have the Von Ryans moving in. Let's see, we'll give it a 1 to 3. Actually, no, we're going to keep doing, we're going to use this as our fight decider. Okay, Tyranids win. So, the Infernus Marines fight valiantly, but it is in vain. The last warrior in the squad is impaled gorily on the talon of a Von Ryan's Leaper. The hive mind commands its warriors to feast on the fallen and return to the primary hive cluster. Having seized the advantage, it's time to launch another devastating assault. again, very important. I really do appreciate these. I think they're very high quality and a good way to get into the hobby. Even though I'm more of a monster tyranid guy, so termagants don't do much for me, but I still like them. On to our next piece, which is Combat Patrol number 9. Again, hold on. I was cleaning some of the others. I think I need to break the tip off of my utility knife. It's getting a little dull. Yep. Just have to do it like that. I'll cut that out. So, you get 2 paints here. Retributor Armor is a fantastic gold. I use it extensively when I am painting gold. And it will see you through a lot. And so is Abaddon Black. It's just a really solid black to use. Goes on really smooth. 2 fantastic paints and integral to your painting collection, to be sure. So, now they're showing you how to fill in the various weapon casings, the ribbing on the armor. I really do like this. It's very cool, I think. And then they teach you how to pick out the things with Retributor Armor, and your models are now effectively tournament ready. If that's all you care about. But yeah, I really do quite like it. I think these are a good step up from the painting guides of old. It's just very, very straightforward, and it's not just skipping through steps without showing a little bit of the process at the very least. Man, honestly, there's something kind of appealing about just the simplistic few color schemes. It reminds me of like RTS games of the 90s. Or like Lego Battles for DS, if any of you played that. Updating your Tyranids, yep, picking out the claws and the armor on some things with black. Yeah, I mean, it's all very good. Very, very good. We're talking Space Marine chapters. So here we're, of course, talking the huge amount of chapters that were established after the Horus Heresy, of course. Yeah, I mean, here, I'll read through this. Chapter of Space Marines is something between an army and an order of monks and a warrior tribe. The Imperium permits the chapters a great deal of independence, and each has its own rich history and culture. Some are fleet-based, crusading across the stars on an endless campaign of slaughter. Others claim dominion over feral worlds, where the tribe's people worship their towering overlords as messengers of the gods and present their sons for recruitment. A few, such as the Ultramarines, even possess their own stellar dominions. The 500 worlds of Ultramar are known as some of the most vital planets in the Imperium. A chapter is a self-contained entity. Each recruit trains and arms its own cadre of warriors. Although most have some kind of a partnership with the Adeptus Mechanicus to aid them in their efforts, a few in the Imperium have the ability to command a chapter. Often, the Space Marines are free to intervene in warfare as they see fit. Every chapter is derived from one of the original Space Marine legions, and their cultures are often closely linked. The Ultramarines are one of the first founding chapters, and they have existed since the very earliest days of the Imperium. However, in the centuries that have followed, many subsequent chapters have developed distinct practices of their own. From the wise mentors of the fanatical Black Templars, chapters vary in structure, but generally they consist of around 1,000 Space Marines broken into companies of 100 or so. Warriors, each and is supported by countless serfs, battleship crew, servitors, and other vital support staff. It is rare indeed for a chapter to concentrate all of its forces in one spot, but when it does, few can stand before their apocalyptic might. Space Marine chapters are some of the most fun things you can make. Here we are. I was hoping we'd have a bit of a showcase here. Blood Angels, the fan favorites. Of course, the cursed space vampires that bear the dark curse of the Red Thirst. You have the Silver Templars, who I plan to do as my next painting video, I think. Though maybe we'll just do these 4. We'll make a squad of them. The Silver Templars are successors of the Ultramarines. They form close bonds with their weapons and make them deadly fighters when using their chosen armaments. And the Space Wolves closely adopt the culture of their homeworld Fenris. As a result, every Space Wolf is a savage, canny hunter who revels in capturing their chosen prey. And the Dark Angels have their own secretive organization and make use of specialized formations. Their Terminator armored Deathwing is feared across the Imperium. This is a story here, so not really something I would cover, but I'm sure it's very interesting. Advancing and falling back, of course, is just you roll a d6 and you get to move a little bit further. So our Terminator captain here can, of course, move 7 inches instead of the usual 5 because I rolled a 2. And I'm sure you've passed kindergarten math. And of course, advancing is, yes, very, very important to getting the most out of your units. Here you've got your first big battle, which I think is really good. It's it's good to put all these things on the table at once. Tyranids' turn. We've got some fighting, some shooting. Let's see who wins with our trusty flip of the base. Whoops, that doesn't count. I have to flick my thumb. That landed on heads. Heads, I say. So, the Space Marines have triumphed against the Tyranid swarm. However, the margin of the victory was slim. Space Marine Captain Vox is a nearby ship for reinforcements. If the Tyranids are truly to be defeated here, they will need them more than mere might. This calls for the strange psychic talent of a Librarian. Of course, that brings us on to our next... I swear I muted my phone. Our next, which is going to include, of course, a Librarian and Terminator armor. Here we are. The Librarian and Terminator armor is a fantastic model, and I'm glad to have a secondary of him. I'm not sure what chapter I'll paint this guy up as. Maybe Blood Ravens, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Because I plan to do this month, I'm going to paint up all the miniatures I've gotten from Combat Patrol so far and turn them into videos, doing all sorts of different hive fleets, all sorts of different chapters. If you've got any chapters you'd like to see, let me know down below, and make sure to subscribe. Here we have the Citadel base brush, the synthetic. I haven't used these, but I've seen them used quite a lot. People like Duncan from Duncan Roads. Wait, Duncan Roads, that doesn't sound right. The Too Thin Coats guy. And in other just general painting things, I do think these brushes are actually quite nice. They just tend to be pretty expensive, so it's nice to get one of these included as a little bonus. And I'll use it for sure in our painting videos. And another 40 millimeter slotted base. So, how to assemble him? Of course, he is push fit, but I would recommend snipping those pegs down a little bit and using glue, and then paint him up to standard, of course. They recommend painting him as Ultramarines, which we'll paint one of the guys as Ultramarines, no doubt, but probably not him. Maybe we will do him. I don't know. The Ecclesiarchy, of course. That's the church cult of the Imperium. But, of course, they also have the Sisters of Battle, who are going to be featuring in our next The Good, the Bad, and the Weird episode, once I get those shipped. We're talking Space Marine doctrines. The Devastator Doctrine. Oh, well, my air conditioning just turned on, but we'll live with that. Space Marines are well known for changing their strategy to adapt to the flow of battle. These shifts and tactics are known as doctrines. Devastator Doctrine is straightforward, effective, and terrifying for the Space Marines' enemies to behold. When using the Devastator Doctrine, a Space Marine force will attempt to break through foes at long range with devastating fusillades of fire. Line troopers unleash punishing bolts from their bolters, while the great tanks and dreadnoughts and heavy infantry bring their most destructive firepower to bear. Often a Space Marine force will open a battle with the Devastator Doctrine, leaving the foe reeling and ready for a brutal follow-up assault. However, Candy commanders also use the Doctrine to break battlefield deadlocks or pummel fleeing foes. You've got some Desolation Marines and some Hellblasters there. Hellblasters are really cool, and I really like them. Here we are. So here you have a few armored options. These two are quite good. I wouldn't recommend that one though, unless you really like it, in which case run 3 of them, because what you like is the most important thing. Let's see our Librarian's background. I'll make sure this is nice and dramatic when we paint him up. 5. This Librarian is seen as reckless, and he always pushes his psychic powers to the limit, heedless of any risks taken in the pursuit of victory. That sounds about right. And then, when we paint these guys, we'll make up names for them as well. Here we're talking about the pistol keyword, which allows you to shoot into combat. Talking about rapid fire, they're covering weapon abilities, very, very good. Yeah. Right, in Terminator armor, critical hits and critical wounds, of course. A 6 to hit or to wound is critical. And you've got your mind over matter. And assault weapons, which of course allow you to advance and shoot. And hazardous, which could accidentally harm your own unit. But we didn't cover the data sheet for our Librarian friend here. Here you can see he's equipped with Smite and a Storm Bolter and a Force weapon, so he's got okay melee and pretty solid shooting. And he also gives his unit Stained Hits 1, which is very good. Example, charge and fight. Oh man, this is not a good place for the Librarian, I will say. He's quite outnumbered, that's for sure. Let's see, who won? Tyranids. Unlucky for our reckless Librarian. As the Librarian attempts to channel more psychic power, the hive mind directs a portion of its psychic might to defeating him. Momentarily distracted, the Librarian attempts to shake off the hive mind's influence, only to be brought down in a way of slashing claws and gnashing envenomed fangs. Well, there we go. Not the most exciting edition of Combat Patrol, to be sure, but still, you get really good paints and you get more models to bulk up your collection. Still great value, and you get a nice brush. It's much better than the little beginner brush they give you, that's for sure. And yeah. And then next edition, what are we getting here? We're getting Corax White, also a very good paint, and Lead Belcher, an integral paint, as well as your Terminators, which is great. Not sure what we're getting in issue 14, though. I believe it's going to be... Oh, what's in issue 14? Is it the Biophage, I think it is? Anyways, I'll see you all next time. You know what? I'm going to do a little time-lapse of me putting all my magazines into the binder at the start of the video. Finally, we have my issue 1, which unfortunately got damaged. A little bit of water got on it, so it's not in the best of shape. But anyways, it still caps off our collection. Yeah, I don't really think this is going to fit another 400 or whatever Combat Patrols in it, but we will add to this as we go. I guess, I mean, maybe we'll fit another 10 in there before this thing's completely full. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye-bye.